If you've been following my page for a while, you've probably seen that I reviewed a lot of different beltless options in order to be able to carry a firearm. Now, the reason why people want these is that if you're going to be wearing a suit, or if you're going to be in an environment where people might know enough about firearms to know that if they see a clip, it's probably not associated to your belt or to your pants, then these are options that could really be as discreet as possible while still giving you the options that you usually have when you're carrying a firearm. So while I was scrolling through Instagram, I found this really interesting company called ConcealCraft, and they make something called the Bridge. Now, this right over here is very much like a chassis system that you're able to modify and adjust based on your liking to be able to use a gun. Now, the reason why I like this is that you guys are probably familiar with certain brands out there that they make like a belt style system that's specific to one firearm, and that's pretty much it, which means you're putting a lot of cost in to one specific setup. And if you decide to change firearms, if you have different setups you might end up using, it's going to cost you a lot more to modify based on each individual gun versus being able to use a system like this, which we'll speak about, which gives you a lot more modularity. So what this is that there's kind of a front panel over here, and it's very minimalistic. It doesn't look as big as it does in real life. It has a G-hook clip on one side, which is this clip right over here, and that just feeds into the loop that's right over there. You're able to adjust it off the back to be able to figure out the sizing, and then once you figure out the sizing you want, they say on the website that you can just pretty much cut off the excess, light it with a like a little lighter just to burn the plastic to keep it in place, and then you're pretty much like ready to go with sizing. The one side on this side where the G-hook clip is actually an elastic, so it gives you a little bit more space to mess around with. So when you're moving around, it gives you a little bit more modularity. So it's not kind of like a set one and done setup. It gives you a little bit of breathing room to be able to work with what you're doing. Now, the front, you can see that there's these little slots over here. So each of these like little like cells or whatever it might be, they're designed that you're able to take your firearm, put it inside the loop that's on the inside. So you see there's a opening right over here. So the holster will go into this area and then actually clip onto one of these hooks. So it works like with the holster that you already have, you're able to adjust it and use it for your setup. So as you see over here, I have a holster with my X macro. I could put it into that particular loop. And then once it's inside the loop, I just bring the clips over and then it clicks and it holds in place as if that was your belt line. Now, based on the company's recommendations, they said that they really only recommend you use like metal clips that really will cinch down and hold it. I've been running it just like this the entire time and I haven't run into any issues. However, I do understand why they might say that. This could also be a time where you could use something like an ulti-clip where it actually grabs onto the material itself, and then that guarantees that it actually stays in place because that's like a material-based grab to be able to hold it. So you could obviously adjust this in many different ways that you might want. So I could also take what I usually carry to be my spare magazine, and if I take my spare magazine in the same format as well, I'll put it into one of those cells, it'll lock into place, and now I have my regular appendix setup with a spare magazine and my firearm all just like that. Now again, what this is going to do is that this is going to wrap around your body just like a belt. So if you're going to be wearing shorts, if you're going to wear a suit and you want it to not be visible, this will just go inside your waistline. It clips just like that with the G-hook, and then you have your setup right over there ready to rock and roll. Now, from the testing that I've done, there's a lot of different ways you're actually able to adjust this. The two things that I'll mention is that I've actually had an easier time with having the actual holster on the complete opposite side. So instead of it going into that Velcro area, I would actually just put it on the back end and the clip would go over both to create a little bit more thickness to clip onto the front. And that's worked very well for me. The reason why the inner part is interesting to me is that if you have a holster that you might use, let's say in a Vertex bag or something like that, those holsters often have male side Velcro backing. So instead of having to actually even have a clip at all, you could have a clipless option, which means you'll be a little bit more slim in the overall setup. You could just put it into that Velcro area and it will cinch in place. And then that way, again, it's a much more low profile option where you don't even need a holster clip at all to be able to make it work. And of course, based on your purpose of use, instead of needing to have a spare magazine or anything like that, a lot of the lights and gear that I've been using actually fits directly into these like slots where you could have your EDC flashlight there instead, where you're able to hook that on. If you want to carry a spare knife or whatever it might be, this could just kind of work as almost like a utility belt that really gives you a lot of modularity to be able to work with it. Now, a few things I'd say to just be able to be cautious about is I've been using it quite a bit. I still need to do a lot more testing with it. The two things that I really wanted to hyper focus on is that you really want to make sure it's tightened to your body correctly. Every outfit you wear will be different. So set up exactly what you might wear on a usual regular day. Tighten it as best you can to that setup, because when you draw like really fast out of it, you could see that it's able to ride up a little bit, and it might like feel like you've like adjusted your pants. Now again, reholstering is not going to be as important than unholstering. So if you're drawing your gun and that's really important, I'll worry about the adjustments later. But in regards to just having to do a lot of repetitions at the range, I did notice that that's going to be something you want to pay attention to. And also certain areas are looking like they might just start to fray. I don't know if you could see that, but the bottom portions over there are just going to be, over time, probably going to have some wear and tear. It doesn't look like at all from the testing I've been doing that's going to be an area of an issue. It's just something that might be worth pointing out when it comes to the design. The material itself feels very durable, and also even in the heat that I was training in, it didn't feel like it was like building up additional sweat. It's kind of like a harder, not really like harder, it's a more rigid type of material, but it's still like very malleable where you're able to adjust it. It's not going to be like a pain. It happens to be also that especially if you're carrying appendix and you usually feel the holster digging into you, if you're going to carry on that inside Velcro area, it just has a kind of like a softer pad against your body to be able to make it work. And again, right now, that since we're in the summer months and things are very hot, if you're going to be going to the beach, or if you're going to be going to the pool, you're not really going to be going into the water, but you do want to have a firearm next to you, then using something like this really gives you a more low profile design without it looking like you're carrying a firearm, and you don't need a belt or something on the outside to make this all work. This works as a standalone chassis system to be able to work with whatever system you might have in place. Now, besides for using this for the X macro, which did work very well, I was also able to run this with my Bodyguard 2.0. And obviously, since that is a smaller gun, you're able to have it kind of more invisible into your waistline and really get away with it. So this really, I think, will far excel when it comes to invisible guns, where you really want a gun that's going to be much smaller, much more low profile. It did work functionally perfectly fine with the X Macro, which is a bigger gun. But again, if you want to really kind of tone down the full sizing of it, then the smaller guns will obviously do a lot better. If you go to ConcealCraft's website, they do have a lot of offerings for like kind of accessories you're able to add to the setup to make it more like modular towards you, whether it ends up being for tourniquet use, magazines, holsters, things like that. So they do kind of offer a wide variety of things that will work specifically with their setups. So I think that's a very good option. A tourniquet that's obviously pretty popular right now and works really well with the setup is going to be the snake staff tourniquets. These ones obviously are pretty much the size of a magazine, and they actually fit within one of those individual loops. So they actually fit perfectly in one of these loops if you want to put them in there. But again, if you do have a holster setup for it specifically, you're able to go within, again, that band area and put them in place, and it works really great as well. So if you're looking for an option that will really make your like suit setups, or if you're going to be wearing shorts during the summer and you want to have a more low profile option, this might be a very interesting thing to look at. The last thing I'll be able to note when it comes to wearing this is you really need to make sure, again, you're going to always dress around the gun to be able to make sure that it won't print as much. But since this will fit pretty tight to the body, but your gun is going to be protruding, you want to make sure that the outfit you're wearing is not going to be super tight fitting, because if it's going to be super tight fitting, you will see like the bulge protruding out, which is going to be like any holster. You need to be able to set it up to your body to make sure you get the best out of it. So if you guys like to see more about this, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'd love to be able to do new testing. I'm very curious about this kind of setup where, since it gives you a lot more modularity with guns and with holsters and all the other accessories that you might want to do without being able to be set as one specific item, I do find that to be pretty interesting. So leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any questions. I'll leave more information about the company in the link in the description down below. And let me know what you guys' thoughts on this. Is this something that you'd end up wearing? Are you interested in setups that are not going to be belt specific? Do you find yourself in those kind of environments where you need the kind of invisibility and clipless design options? Or is this something that really kind of goes outside of your scope of interest? I'd be very curious to see how popular these styles are, because it's something that still intrigues me, of being able to modify it and use different, like maybe even medical setups aside from the tourniquets itself. But once I get more testing, I'll let you guys know. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. This is Raziel Cohen with the tacticalrabbi.com. Thank you for watching.